Every year, 6% of Bahamian
children are born with a heart defect.
We at Cable 12
and the Nassau Guardian
decided to lend a helping hand
in creating more awareness to the cost of saving little hearts.
One surgery can cost up to
$250,000.
We at Cable 12
and the Nassau Guardian hear their cry.
We are asking you
to make a donation to these efforts.
Embrace the opportunity
and save a little heart.
Good evening, Bahamas. This is NB12 broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Here's what's making news tonight. The family of Jamie Smith, who died in police custody, considering criminal charges. The Attorney General says no same-sex marriages recognized in the Bahamas. Hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on repatriation so far this year, plus the live musical drama production Easter Song released on DVD. Those stories and much more on the way, and the Kia DeVoe and NB12 starts right now. Thank you again for joining us here at NB12. Family members of Jamie Smith, who died of asphyxia or a lack of oxygen while in police custody, say they're just waiting on an official autopsy report before moving ahead with possible criminal charges. Family members and their attorney say they don't want this case lost in the backlog of matters currently before the coroner's court and air their grievances with the media today. Paige McCartney reports.
The last time Jamie Smith's mother spoke with the media, she didn't have any idea how her son died in police custody. But now, with a death certificate showing that the cause was asphyxia, Earla Dortch said she believes now more than ever that there is someone behind her son's death.
When he was arrested, that he was not going to go to court, okay? They decided that they was going to be judge and they were going to be juror.
Yesterday, both Minister of National Security Dr. Bernard Nottage and officer in charge of the Central Detective Unit, Superintendent Paul Roll, insisted that there was no cover-up in the matter. They say the facts would come out in the coroner's inquest and the public should wait to hear the circumstances surrounding the death before jumping to conclusions. But according to Christina Galanis, who is the attorney for Smith's family, based on what the autopsy report reveals, they may request that the matter not be heard in the coroner's court at all.
It may not be necessary if the coroner's report is if the pathologist report is clear that something criminal happened to Jamie Smith. It may be just a matter of convening a manslaughter or murder trial. The coroner's court does not determine criminal liability. They just determine the cause and the circumstances surrounding the death. And so no punishment or anything can come from the coroner's court, whatever the coroner's court determines.
As the family prepares to bury Smith this weekend, they are also dealing with a very personal matter becoming public. NB12 captured a screenshot of a picture that was circulating a social media website of Smith's body with the autopsy wounds on it. We asked Dortch how she feels about a picture of her son's dead body being shared around the internet in that manner.
Not good at all, because he should be alive. So we shouldn't have dead pictures of him. He should be here. And if he did something that was wrong, he should be here to be held accountable. Well, everything about it make me know that something was wrong. I mean, there were things on his body that shouldn't have been there.
Smith is the third person to die in police custody at the Central Detective Unit in 3 years, and the inquests into the other two deaths, one in 2010 and the other in 2012, are still pending. Galana said she hopes that the authorities don't delay or cause the matter to be forgotten and lost in the massive backlog of cases currently before the coroner's court.
And Smith's family and friends say they will participate in a protest in Parliament Square tomorrow morning with other people who say that their family members were victims of police brutality. For NB12, I'm Paige McCartney.
In a violent 24 hours, 4 men were shot overnight, one of them fatally, pushing the murder count for the year to 16. Police are now investigating the death of a 24-year-old man of southwestern New Providence. Officers are uncertain of the circumstances surrounding his death, but what they do know is that the man was shot to death around 9:30 last night at West End Avenue off Market Street. The other 3 shooting victims are in hospital in stable condition. 2 of those men, both of them 37 years old, were shot around 7:45 yesterday evening at Hay and Maycock Streets. The third man, a 23-year-old, was shot while leaving a residence in Jones Heights around 8:30 last night. Meantime, police have released the identities of 3 of the latest murder victims. The 20-year-old man shot and killed on Monday, February 25th, is Shavano Dean of Wolf Road. Dean and a young woman were shot during the early morning hours in the parking lot of a business establishment on Wolf Road. He succumbed to his injuries. The young man killed outside of his home on Apple Street this past Friday was also 20 years old. Police say Randy Henfield was found unresponsive in front of the house with multiple gunshot wounds shortly after 5 a.m. And 19-year-old Katario Ambrister of Pinewood Gardens was the man who was found dead in his vehicle on Ida Street early Saturday morning. Police say he was shot during an altercation with another man in a nightclub and died while driving his SUV away from the scene. Over the past 5 years, the Bahamas government has spent nearly $7 million in repatriating migrants to their homelands as soon as possible after their apprehension. But according to the acting director of immigration, some migrants end up spending much longer in Bahamian custody at the Carmichael Road Detention Center. Christina McNeil reports.
About 90% of detainees at the Carmichael Road Detention Center are Haitian migrants. Those migrants are typically repatriated as soon as possible to alleviate overcrowding. Then there are other migrants who acting Immigration Director William Pratt says have been detained for up to a year.
The only migrants that have been detained there for a while would be the Cubans. We have 37 of those. And we have a Kenyan and a Ghanaian who've been there for pretty much about a year or so.
Speaking to NB12 last week, Pratt revealed that there were more than 200 detainees at the center. That was before 114 Haitian migrants were set to be repatriated on Friday. Pratt says there are a variety of reasons why detainees may linger at the center for an extended period of time, one of them being refusal to sign travel documents for repatriation, as is the case of one of the African detainees.
The individual refused to sign the application for his travel document, and so we're going to be working with IOM, International Organization of Migration, to get him to be repatriated. He refused to sign his travel document, even though the United Nations have already responded that he's not a political refugee.
Political refugees are allowed to remain in the Bahamas with special permission, but Pratt says there are also instances where countries refuse to allow a migrant passage en route to their homeland. Pratt says the Bahamas does not have direct flights to all countries, therefore migrants have to be transported through countries with permission from their governments. He says another reason detainees remain in the Bahamas is because officials cannot confirm their identities or nationalities.
Sometimes it's difficult. Those persons may have entered the Bahamas on a valid travel document that may not have been theirs, or under different names. Sometimes they give you a wrong name when they get arrested, and we would then have to inquire from the various embassies through Foreign Affairs to determine their nationality before we can then move to get travel documents.
The detention center was initially built to accommodate up to 500 detainees. However, that capacity was reduced when a fire destroyed 2 dormitories. The Royal Bahamas Defense Force and Immigration Department last week noted a spike in the number of Haitian migrants apprehended in Bahamian waters. Last year, the Bahamas government spent more than $1 million to repatriate migrants. So far for 2013, between January and February, government has spent $225,000 in repatriation. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
Attorney General Alison Maynard Gibson denying claims that invalid same-sex unions are being performed in the Bahamas. Celeste Nixon has more in this report.
Stating that no same-sex marriages have been registered in the country, Maynard Gibson said Bahamian law is clear that marriage is a union between a man and a woman.
Following suggestions that the Marriage Act doesn't specifically prohibit same-sex marriage, Maynard Gibson said the law is clearly defined. Additionally, she noted, she personally checked with the Registrar General and was assured that no same-sex marriage documents have been filed.
In the Bahamas, a marriage is a union between a man and a woman. That is what the law of the Bahamas is. Now, somebody did press me and say that they understand that same-sex couples have been married in the Bahamas. That's not a marriage. It is not legal. It is illegal to conduct a marriage. It's a nullity. It just cannot happen in the Bahamas.
While Maynard Gibson reiterated that the state does not recognize same-sex unions, she said someone could seek to challenge the law in court.
Anybody could challenge anything, and I don't want to preempt anybody's right to go to court. That's the wonderful thing about our democracy. All that I can say that the law is very clear that in the Bahamas, a marriage is a union between a man and a woman, not between a woman and a woman.
The issue recently received media attention when Chief Justice Sir Michael Barnett, at a Bar Association luncheon last month, said he expected it was only a matter of time before the courts would have to address the subject of gay marriage. Later, Sir Michael clarified that his statement was part of a broader speech on the Bahamian legal system, and he never put a time frame on when the issue could come before the courts. His initial comments, however, sparked a debate between gay activists and religious groups. Addressing the Constitutional Commission last week, human rights activist Aaron Green called the church a special interest group that should not interfere with the government carrying out its obligations to provide equal rights, including the right to marry, to their citizens regardless of sexual orientation. Also joining the discussion, former Christian Council President Bishop Simeon Hall spoke out against the legalization of same-sex marriage, claiming it was a violation of divine intent. Reporting from NB12, I'm Celeste Nixon.